Welcome into the shop, everybody. It's great to have y'all here. I am super excited to be sharing with you one of the more challenging projects I've ever built in my 10, 11 years of business. Real quick, I want to thank my good friends at Simply Safe for sponsoring this video. I'm going to share more about them here soon. First off, let's go quick overview of what we're building here. So it's a waterfall table. If you're not familiar with that, it's basically a table surface and two legs that meet and the grain flows around. So the table surface comes, grain's coming, and it flows around down to the floor. The client for this provided all the materials. So they cut down several trees off their property before they began construction. One of those was a really nice pecan. So we're gonna take the pecan slabs and we're gonna make that waterfall grain on the top. Now the challenge here is we don't have enough length in the slab to do the whole up, over, and down in one flow, which would look really cool. So what we decided to do is book match it in the middle of the table and bench and then work out from there and waterfall down. So there's a lot of tricky veneer work in this. That's not even the hardest part. The hardest part of this whole build is a little kind of half-inch pencil edge that runs the whole length of both the table and bench. And there's a transition from a shaped bottom. So we've got this nice, cool like profile. And the idea when I designed this was that it would almost feel like a log, just a log that was cut in half, and you turned it into a table and bench, but much more refined, if that makes sense. So the bottom is painted. We've got a painted surface, so it's got to be nice and smooth, no voids, no bumps. Everything just needs to be clean. And then as it rolls up, it hits that edge of that pecan, and it's got to be a perfect paint line straight the whole way around, because your eye is going to catch it if it's not straight. So I really set myself up on this for a lot of challenges, and we made a lot of mistakes, and we had to go back, forward, back, and forward. Let's just jump in and get started on this fun and challenging build.
Yeah.
Trying to put my hand there.
Sometimes
That glue's wet enough. You could scrape some of it off.
Yeah. Right. Watch the fingers. Something wrong with it. But my mouth and my head is all messed up.
Okay, so I want to jump in real quick and explain a little bit more about the CNC process here. As you can tell, there's a lot of MDF in this. Now, originally I had planned on making the whole thing solid, but as you know, MDF is super heavy, so we blocked it off. So basically we're making sections and then we're going to rib them together. So the CNC is not only going to cut that profile, which is a huge benefit. You know, imagine trying to do that without a CNC. It's also going to cut my miters, so it can cut the profile in the blocks that need to come together. I can cut that radius profile, and I can have the CNC cut out perfect 45-degree miter on the block. So from the get-go, the CNC is kind of creating this foundation, this MDF foundation for us to build around. So that kind of explains that process. Now you're going to see some challenges I didn't even expect that we face with the MDF. It's not a very fun material to work with. Once you get it veneered and captured and all held together, it's great because it's stable, it doesn't move. But before that, it's just not a very great material to build with, as a lot of people probably know. Okay, so let's take a quick break from this build. I want to tell you about today's sponsors, SimpliSafe. If you look right behind me here, that is a keypad. That is a SimpliSafe system. I have one in the shop and in the house. The system itself, it costs less than $1 a day to operate, and you can set it up yourself. This is a brand new system they just sent me. So this is an entire home security system in a box. You don't need to be professional to set that up. It's really easy. It takes 30 minutes. You've got entry sensors. You've got door lock, automatic door locks. You've got HD cameras, fire sensor, CO sensors, water sensors, temperature sensors. All of that connects into what's called the home base. Right behind me, you might be able to see the keypad. I'll just go ahead and grab that. This is what controls everything. So in my shop, I have entry sensors on every entry point. I have a fire sensor. It's one of my favorite parts to have in the shop. That way, you know, this is a wood shop. There's chemicals in it. There's finishes. There's wood burns. So it's good to know that I have fire protection. It's monitored 24/7 through their monitoring service. Also on my app, if any sensor gets triggered, I know immediately because I have the SimpliSafe app. Also, there's no long-term contract, so you can sign up for SimpliSafe. You can get your system, and if you use it for 6 months and decide it's not for you, you're not stuck in a contract. You can get out of it. Although I've had mine for 4 or 5 years, and I don't see myself canceling it anytime soon. My favorite part about SimpliSafe, and the reason, probably the biggest reasons why I have it, are the HD cameras. I have an HD camera set up as a doorbell camera. I love that feature. I know when anyone is at my house, any delivery people, anything of that nature, I get a notification on my phone anytime that camera detects motion. Also, they have a very, very awesome outdoor camera. Fairly new product to SimpliSafe. I have it hooked up to my shop, and it basically has a wide degree of field of view for my garage, for the argosy, for the entry to the shop, and also to the front of my house. So it actually can cover most of my property because it has such a good field of view. It also has a really cool feature in that it has a night spotlight. So if I'm walking around the shop at night, it detects motion, it shines a light. So if you're interested and you want to protect your house, now is a perfect time. If you've also got a wood shop and you want to protect it from any kind of water damage, fire damage, or theft, now is the time to get a system. SimpliSafe is offering my viewers 20% off security system if you sign up for the interactive monitoring service, and you get your first month free. I promise you, if you get this system, which you should, you need to have the interactive monitoring service. It really is the best part about it, being able to track everything via the app. A huge thanks to SimpliSafe for supporting the channel, for supporting what I do, and also for providing such an awesome product for both my shop and for the home. I really appreciate you guys. Let's jump back into this build. Okay, so like I said earlier, we're creating, basically chunks and then ribbing those together. Now, as you'll see probably in videos too, that this actually proved to be a design flaw. We're gonna jump into the first problem right now. As we assembled those ribs into those pockets, one of the MDF pieces actually split, and we had splits in several of the other ones. So that's kind of the issue with MDF, is you can break it apart. It's not a very strong material until you capture it with plywood and veneers. Then it's going to hold together really well. So we had to glue one of those blocks back together, and we had a few areas where we had to just fill cracks. We just kind of pushed through that, and then once we got the veneers on, the MDF was nice and stable. We can do it. I think we stick to
Ripping
no, I think you're heading in a better direction. Like, the more I think about it.
Well, I don't know.
No.
Do you want to try switching them?
We're
and
like I said, man, we're figuring this out as we go.
Or do you think it's going to be the same?
I think we center them, and we can do a little bit of work. Like that is fine. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of shaving on this. Now,
And
we could switch them.
that should meet, right? If you just kind of work this down a little bit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, if you take a little bit off.
That should meet. We could.
You just don't
pencil
want
a
to
line
do
there.
this taper thing where it won't.
Yeah.
But we could switch them real quick and just see if.
Just see.
Yeah.
I feel like it's probably going to be the same.
Well, it's worth check it.
But we could check.
Because we may luck out, and it may be.
Perfect.
I think we could go with that. Another thing that is good about after we put the bendy ply on and veneer it, if we clamp it all together and put this on last, is we can get clamps here. Not from this side, but
Right,
from
the
top.
underside, yeah.
Okay, jumping back in, because this is the first point where I felt like a little worried that this wasn't going to work. As you can see here, the Bendy, sorry, bug. So you can see we wrapped it in that Bendy board, and that stuff is flexible, right? And so the edges didn't have a rib. I didn't put a rib all the way out to the edge, and that Bendy board where it was glued to the MDF, cores, blanks, was nice and straight. But then when it got off those and spanned the rib gap, it did this little bow thing here. So, and I knew, when I saw that, I knew that was going to have to be fixed in some capacity, because that's going to affect how that radius comes around and hits that edge, and it's going to make that line, that transition line, all wobbly and gross looking. So that was the first problem. We're going to fix that here soon, and it's kind of like I said earlier, we're going to go forward and back a little bit on this build. Okay, so we've gone through, we've been able to flatten the tops in the NDF, and we've been able to fit our miters, the profile, and shape it so everything lines up and looks pretty. Now we got to deal with this hump in the Bendy board, as it spans those gaps. So what we ended up doing was actually removing the edges of the pieces, just cutting a big rabbet in there. It was kind of sketchy. We did it on the table saw, and we just basically added a 3/4 inch thick by like 2 inch wide piece of maple down all of the edges. So that way we had a solid piece of wood, so it was stout, it wasn't going to chip or break, and it was something that we could shape. It was something that we could come back and tweak, and then we could get it nice and straight. So that added quite a bit of work there. That was probably a good day's worth of work going through that process, and then going through the process of shaping it and feathering it into the curve. But I think that was the only way to get that edge, to get the foundation of that edge dialed in. Okay, so that's gonna shut it down for this video. I shot a ton of clips. This is a lot of footage. So basically, if you watched us build the core of this piece out of, sheet good material, MDF, Bendy board, it's amazing how much work it took just to build this and get everything dialed in, get the miters all fitting, the profiles right, get it prepped for veneer. So what we're gonna do in the next video is we're gonna wrap the bottom in a maple veneer. So you saw us do a lot of work on that bottom, a lot of filling work and a lot of shaping and sanding, because I wanna wrap it with that maple and make sure that that's a really good surface and that we end up with a paintable surface. Now, we're gonna find out in video 2 that all doesn't work out. Like I mentioned, there was some issue with the actual rib design and we ran into some real problems. Also in video 2, we're gonna put the top on. So you're gonna see the veneer work. It's all gonna come together. It's gonna look gorgeous. And it's honestly, it's just a really cool, unique piece. So stay with me. That video is gonna come out real soon. Leave me a comment here. Let me know what you think. You watched a professional furniture maker go into uncharted waters and kind of figure out how to build something he hasn't built. Maybe there's some of y'all out there that, have some feedback, some input on how you would have built this a little bit differently. Love to hear it. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and I can't wait to share part 2 in the finished project with you here real soon.